up here, and I've met both of them, but I'll just read a little bit about some background. The first one is Ambassador Robina Hakunge from Uganda, and a wonderful person in her own right, extraordinary set of character traits, and just brilliant. Very, very seasoned diplomat and educated as a journalist, actually, and so I know that she probably took great interest in the digital forum that we had earlier. Now based here, obviously, in Washington, and promoting the kinds of things that the people of Uganda need. You know, there's tourism, of course, migration. We talked a little bit about that, and just some of the other aspects. I'm not going to take too much time going into long introductions. The one thing that I look for in people is not their political astuteness, right? The ability to be politically correct. What I look for is leadership, because I think that we lack leadership. This woman that you're looking at up here is a wonderful leader. She is here in the United States of America because she has demonstrated extraordinary leadership skills. And on that note, Major General Mahmoud Hassani from Egypt is somebody who I have known. I definitely know many of his former bosses, actually. We talked about General El-Keshki and others. I have a great affinity for Egypt. I know President El-Sisi personally, and he and I actually served as counterparts. So when I was the senior intelligence officer at our U.S. Central Command, which is running all of these various wars in the region in the Middle East and Central Asia, at the time that I was down there, we actually had purview of 27 nations, and we gave up 7 of those nations to AFRICOM, but at that time El-Sisi was the head of military intelligence for Egypt, and so he was my counterpart, and I worked very closely with him. And then I watched all the things that took place in Tahrir Square and all the other things, and now he's the president. That's the way the world works, right? Very chaotic, very complex, but another strong leader. And I know that the type of people that he places here in the United States of America are also good leaders on their own right. So the fact that they're up here able to speak, because I'll talk about that before I finish up with this part of the day, about being able to speak, because being able to speak is a strength. Okay? Being able to dialogue is a strength. You don't have to go back and get permission. You speak for yourself and speak freely. If I was working directly for President Trump, I could actually say in our system that I don't agree with that particular policy, but I'm going to fight tooth and nail because he said it. Okay? Because he said it. Because if I'm working for him, if I'm working in his administration here in the United States of America, we can do that. Okay? Many other countries can't do that. To avoid that in this day and age of information, as we just heard on the media side, you cannot avoid it any longer. I mean, we haven't even touched on artificial intelligence, which I am deeply, deeply involved in. Boone and I wrote a book on how to fight artificial intelligence. Okay? This is something that is another part of information and intelligence. So on that note, when I asked, and Ambassador, I'll start with you if you don't mind, and I'll give you the mic here in a second. I really just want you to talk about Uganda, but also priorities and how you see America and how you want to be seen as a leader in Africa, but also just from your perspective as a diplomat. So, please.
Thank you very much. I'd like to start out by saying thank you for the lunch and thank you for the invitation. And I really want to just kind of have a conversation with, and I thank you for this opportunity. I think I would first like to say that I am a product of an American education. And I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona, by circumstances. Those were the days of Idi Amin. My father was killed during that time, so we all know that story. And that's how I got there, and here I am. Here we are. I believe in America, and I believe in Uganda, and I believe in the relationship between America and Uganda and strengthening that. And that's why when I was appointed as the ambassador to the U.S., I accepted. I'm not a career diplomat, but I had an inkling that our relationship as nations mattered and continues to matter. Unfortunately, the minute I got here, we agreed to disagree on some key issues. We are a conservative nation. There's a way we see what a family looks like in our view. And the current administration at that time disagreed. So we found ourselves off the AGOA list. We found ourselves being invited and uninvited to certain things because of our beliefs. But we stood firm because that issue had gone through Parliament. It had gone through the whole process, the democratic process. The executive Parliament is the people's voice. But he also got to a point where we're saying, what if you rescind that? And he said, but this is the democracy you've been talking about. Except that you don't agree with that particular issue, but we're going through these motions of democracy. So here we are. Congratulations to the Americans for electing your president. And he signed an executive order which addressed our issue. So I think we can now begin to reset the button. And I really think our work began now. Let me tell you a little bit about Uganda. We are the size of the state of Oregon. We're 45 million. We can feed 200 million people. We can feed more than half of America. We're the food basket of East Africa. But our young people are selling their land to go in town and do some temporary work. And when they sell that farmland, or when they lease that farmland, a lot of it is being leased to the Chinese. We take food as a national security issue. And what's the missing link? Technology, know-how, production, storage, things that America knows. So where are the partners? Where are they? With the universities. Especially when we are the food basket of East Africa. We're land locked, but really we're land linked. When it comes to education, we have the Harvard of East Africa, Makerere University, 100 years in the making. Most of the presidents, leaders, all those around East Africa and Africa have studied in that university. But there's a challenge because with the American education system, when you look at it, many international students fail it. America is a brand. You are a brand. You're in the psyche. But sometimes there's a bit of a mismatch there in that a substitute comes in. And how does that substitute come in? When our young people cannot engage or do not have the resources, they look for substitutes. So let me give you an example. You will find a young African selling t-shirts that say Mikey rather than Nike. Where do they get them? They're produced in China. So who's benefiting from your brand? Because ultimately that T-shirt or whatever it is bought by them. And young people are not patient. They may not remember how long, because they're what, in their 20s now, 30s? We're one of the youngest populations in the world. 70% of our population is under 30 years old. So they will not remember that our relationship is 60 years in the making. When they're looking for those scholarships, some even get full scholarships, full rides to American universities, but they don't get the visa. Then they get free scholarships to Chinese universities. So after they graduate, and yet their children, their parents rather, may have gotten an American education. They have had American influence. We've talked about media, legacy media. That's one of the reasons why I pursued journalism, to tell Uganda and Africa's story. Because the image and the people that I was seeing in the legacy media were so disconnected from the Africa that I lived in and that I knew. So disconnected. 20% of it, yes, was true. But 80% of it was simply not there. Not in the context that is there. So there's subscription TV. You have to pay for these subscription TVs. But China has a free channel with subtitles in English. Free. Their films, their movies. Free things are costly in the long term. But who really invented this whole thing of communication, TV, that whole movement? You branded it, you, the Americans. But who's consuming it? And at what cost? So these really are some of the things when we talk about engaging or reconnecting. Not just the platforms, but the content. Uganda stood with America when it comes to the issue of Somalia. We're the first boots on the ground. We are the country that hosts 2 million refugees. 2 million from our neighbors. But we're also able to do that because many of them grow their own food. Again, it goes back to agriculture. So that's stability. But when you look at that equation and you ask, where would these young people be if you are not in Uganda? These 2 million refugees. Possibly the Mediterranean, trying to make their way to Europe, possibly through South America and Central America, trying to make their way to the border of the U.S. But there they are, in Uganda. It's a constraint, because our wallets are not very, we have generous hearts, but sometimes we're as a country that is beginning to get back on track after the wars, after all those other things. But where do we stand now in terms of engagement and re-engagement? And again, when you look at, we spoke about ISIS, there's ADF, the Allied Defense Forces, next door. That's where our concentration is. Because the other panel that we were talking about is not the whole of times. But it's a bit of this group here, that group there. And again, if you look at the demographics, in that we were maybe 35% Anglican, maybe another 30% Catholic, and then they're in between, maybe 2% Muslim. But if you look at the demographics now, you find that maybe the Muslim community is 11%. And then you also look at where we have the funding or the capital gaps, you find that we're getting the Islamic banks loaning us money. They have different, and their rules apply differently to the rules that we have. So again, where our priorities? We coexist. We are, in Uganda, you can find on one street, you will find a church, a temple, and a mosque. So we coexist. But then again, how are we going to move forward with these new opportunities? And where is America our friend in that region? So those are the questions that we're having discussion. But then we also have champions in Uganda, real champions. This year, the NBA is going to get 2 Ugandans, one for the Phoenix Suns, who is a refugee in Uganda at some point, and the other one is going to the Lakers. We have somebody who has 2 football rings, the championship. They played for the Bills. The Giants. I know the Olympics are coming here soon, even the World Soccer. We hold the title, the gold medal, the 10,000 challenge. But what resources are there when you talk about sports diplomacy? Many times these athletes, and your average American athlete, what do they have? They have a trainer, they have
an agent,
chef, an agent, a physiotherapist, a whole lineup. You'll find that in Uganda, for example, the athlete may not even have the proper shoes. But where are the American companies, and where are the American athletes, and where are some of these partnerships that can be there? Even if it's just at college level, what are your young people doing during the summer? Why can there not be exchanges of some sort, engagements of some sort? Because if we continue to be in Uganda, the more that distance, the less the connectivity. We talked about leadership. We've had 2 women vice presidents. Currently, a woman is vice president. The previous one was 20 years ago. So when it comes to leadership, what are some of the things that we can learn from each other? Because we lead differently, but we have the common interest. For nations, for families, it's really the same. I can stop there for a second.
Okay.
Thank you once again.
Absolutely, thank you. So first of all, we just met maybe a couple months ago, and so I'm like blessed personally to have gotten to know you. What you just heard was a demonstration of extraordinary character, strength, and courage. Okay? Spoken from the heart. Not worried about, how it's going to make you feel, but just pure, unadulterated strength. And that's what we need. That's the type of engagement that we need from, when we're interacting, particularly with America. Because America has we're sort of a weird culture, right? Sometimes we're too short-sighted. And this is really, the issue of athletics is one, we could do that all day, but the issue of athletics, and you see in our culture, right, the U.S. athletes that they don't even necessarily promote America. U.S. athletes. So, fascinating, and thank you for those remarks. General Mahmoud is also not only from Egypt, but he's also a fellow with the Gold Institute. So, on that note, I just want to do the same, just offer you some time to speak.
Do you mind saying if I take the podium?
Please.
Yeah. Thank you.
Good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So, thank you so much. It's a privilege and a great honor to be with this incredible gathering. So, talking in this extraordinary international conference for strategic partnership. So first I would like to express my personal gratitude and respect to the Honorable Michael Flynn, Lieutenant General, U.S. Army, Chairman of the Gold Institute, 25th National Security Advisor to the President of the United States, and so many other titles. So truly remarkable leader with outstanding vision. Thank you, sir, and I'm really proud about the kind words that you mentioned about my country and my leadership. Thank you so much. And also, it's my honor to share this panel with you. Also, I would like to thank Adam Lovinger for his leadership to the National Strategy and Planning Team to prepare the wonderful National Strategy, which I started to read last night. Adam Lovinger crafted this strategy, and it's very amazing, and we need some time to, of course, with the Gold Institute to discuss this strategy and talk about it.
There's the mics on the table. Hold on, I don't want to, I'm sorry. What you're saying is important. I'm going to, for the media that's here, I'm going to remove some of these mics because I don't want this to be distracting, okay? So let's move that one. In 5, sorry.
Also, my special thanks to my friend Eli Gold, the president of the Gold Institute, who kept me stay up all night when he surprised me that I would be talking with the General Flynn panel. So I stayed just working hard, and you kept me staying all night. Thank you so much.
And keep you on your toes.
And so, ladies and gentlemen, I would love to express. So let's talk about the current situation in the Middle East and the security situation, which is everybody, of course, is concerning about, and it's the heart of the world. What's happening in the Middle East right now? I would love to express my admire as a former professional soldier I was impressed by the incredible masterpiece Operation Midnight Hammer on June 22nd that the U.S. Multiple domain military strike on Iranian nuclears. It was really a masterpiece operation that put an end to the 12 days war, what was running between the Iranian and the Israelis. So the multiple domain operation Midnight Hammer reflects the extraordinary performance of the U.S. military as a superpower. Of course, I didn't like the video after this very successful operation, but we should just mention the success and the message that this operation actually sent to the whole world about the U.S. power and military performance. So right now in the region where we live, a lot of threats and a lot of challenges that you probably all know, but one of the main reasons of instability in the Middle East, the war which is still going on in Gaza right now, and we all hope that the politicians and the leaders of the United States and Israel can put an end to this bloody war, which is a real threat to the national security of many countries in the region, and particularly to my country, Egypt, through what's happening in the Red Sea and the Suez Canal and the intervening of the proxies like Houthis and some other proxies groups, which is, by the way, we are really glad that they were eliminated, and just for now, but we don't know what's happening in the future. I mean, so we hope that to reach to an end to this bloody war, which, by the way, is nothing new for us. So the conflict has been going on since 1948 and even before this. And but right now it took a larger scale, like an international scale, and a lot of countries were involved in this conflict. And even, as you mentioned, and some friends mentioned about the United States community and the universities, and even in Europe, and so everybody is involved in this conflict, and the whole world wants to see an end to this conflict, which is really a real threat to the stability of the Middle East and the whole world. There's some thoughts that I wrote about this war through my observation to the situation. Some leaders are directing the war to be political war, and some other leaders are struggling to direct this war towards ideological war. So I personally see it both ways. It's political and ideological. And as you all know that the Hamas and the other militants group, it's an ideology. It's not just not a militant group, but it's an ideology and an idea. And they are, spreading somehow through different ways of approach to the even to the region and even to Europe, even to the United States somehow. But but it's not a militant group, it's an ideology. So the war which is going on right now has two phases, which is the political phase and the ideological phase. And I'm sure that you know better and you understand this very deeply. And, so by all means, this war must come to an end. I was watching the other day Admiral Amy Ialon from the IDF, former IDF, former Navy, so talking to Christian Amanpour, he said, I cannot justify or defend what we are doing in Gaza. And not only Amy Ialon, but many other leaders from Israel. So they say the majority of people in Israel believe that the war must end. So I quote Yair Lapid, the leader of the opposition, political opposition in Israel. He said one important quote. He said that what we achieved through peace with Egypt, we couldn't achieve it with war with some other countries. And what we achieved with peace, it lasted like half a century. So talking about this ongoing conflict, which is the main topic of the Middle East. Also, we have some other challenges, like terrorism challenges, particularly in the Horn of Africa. As Your Excellency mentioned, that the terrorist organizations are connected together. So from the Horn of Africa to the west of Africa, like Boko Haram and Al-Shabaab in Somalia and ISIS and Al-Qaeda and some other groups who are really connected together, and they announce loyalty to each other, and they are transferring terrorists through the continent, comes maybe from Yemen through the Horn of Africa up to the north, threatening the Red Sea and the maritime security in the Red Sea, and also threatening the Suez Canal as the important vein for the international trade in the whole world. So those challenges, terrorism challenges, is a real threat to our stability in the Middle East. Also, as I said, that those organizations are connected together, and they cooperate together, even through ideas and through changing the loyalties, as I said, threatening the whole region and threatening the whole world. And also, the other challenge, and it's an economical challenge, but the economy comes as a result from the terrorism challenges. So if we could just end the terrorism, so there will not be economical challenges. So those were just some thoughts about the security situation in the Middle East, and I would like to thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to talk about those thoughts. Thank you.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah. You know, there's so many, we're in good shape. Yeah. There's so many themes that we have addressed today that we all have in common. And it's like, it's like the human body, right? If you don't exercise, you start to go in a different direction, right? If you get unhealthy, right? Cancer. I've had cancer in my life, and I've had cancer in my family's life. Terrorism is like a cancer. And once it grabs hold, it's like a malignant cancer. Once it grabs hold of a society, they want to take over everything. And they really do destroy it. It really does destroy everything. And the general just mentioned 4 or 5 different groups. There's probably 24 different groups. All of us are experiencing that. We're experiencing that right here in the United States. That's where we have to really kind of focus. It's not an idea of terrorism. It's the idea of common themes, common challenges, right? Common things that we're trying to do. I mean, the number of, if I got the number of your population, Your Excellency, it was around 45 million? Yeah. So, and what she said was 70% are under the age of 35, which means that's about 32 million people in your population are under that. Our kids, our children, our young people. And it gets back to, that's why we put in the media conversation. And we got off on different tangents on that, but I'm telling you, the people of the world, especially young people, they will find out how to get around all of the challenges that countries are trying to impose on information. Okay, the idea of information and the explosion of information, because it's an information war. And so to get what the ambassador talked about to the American leadership, to say, here are opportunities that we have here, right? It's a big deal. Uganda is one nation in I think it's around 54, maybe 58 countries now. Extraordinary resources. And I've seen it with my own eyes, with what the Chinese do. I've seen it in about half a dozen countries that I've been in Africa in the past decade or so, where they just come in with a bag of money. Because where's America? Right? So it does take somebody to juggle a lot of different crystal balls, right? You can't drop any of them. So let me just stop there. Are there any burning questions that people have about anything? Yes, sir. Here you go. It starts ringing. Get yourself in the head.
Thank you so much. I'm Fernando Marques. I'm the consular of the Embassy of Angola. And I would like to share some comments, some thoughts on the presentation, and I'd like to start congratulating Ambassador from Uganda for this insightful information that allow me to say that the reality in Uganda reflected on the information shared by the ambassador is the same in several countries in Africa, including Angola. I'd like to make some comments on opportunities in Africa. And Ambassador shared about Angola, and now we are discussing about the extension of Angola. But I'd like to raise also the AFCFTA, the African Continental Free Trade Area. It is a great opportunity for strength the cooperation between the U.S. and Africa. I'd like also to raise the strategic projects in Africa about strategic corridors or the way that we can, through these development corridors, export the critical minerals of several countries in Africa to the U.S. and to the world. I'd like also to raise the opportunities of talents, young talents in Africa. And Ambassador raised about the difficulties of access to education, especially higher education in Africa. And would like to, instead of bringing these young African people to the U.S., we want to exchange opportunities to having experts of the U.S. in Africa working with our higher institutions. And finally, I'd like to emphasize that Africa could also be a very important alternative for mineral suppliers in the world, not only in the U.S., but in the world. And since we don't take these opportunities in Africa now, other countries will take it, because we are living in a global world and no one is waiting for anyone. So this is an appeal. This is something that we'd like to share with the U.S., but saying that we are open to cooperate in a very mutual benefit basis with the U.S. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. We have, I think someone waiting on a question that we're going to bring up one of the congressmen in a second here. I just want to say thank you very much for both of you for your remarks, all of you. In fact, thank you from the country of Angola. My first knowledge of Angola was the war. I was a young officer, you know, and we're watching, it was one of these proxy wars, right? And when you look at Africa, Africa is trying to rise out of this theft of its own culture, and by the great powers, right? The great powers were fighting over the resources. And the resources, the number one resource that Africa has is the people of Africa, the human capital. Right? You got rare earth elements, you got all kinds of, you got some of the best fresh water, one of the largest freshwater systems in the world. The Great Lakes of Africa, the Nile, other places, you got rare earth elements of every imaginable type of commodity. Then other forms of energy. And you have growing young leaders. And that's what we really need. And we need strong voices to engage this country. Because I'm going to tell you, this country, the United States of America, we're going to come out of this, and we're going to, sort of find our own health again. And as we do that, what I would recommend to you is to be louder. To be louder, and engage. And that doesn't mean you got to beat the table. It just means that when you have an opportunity, and that's why we're partly doing this, folks, is because I know this. That's why we're doing this. Because I know that there's so much noise here in this town. And they will refuse, not guys like Marco Rubio or Tulsi Gabbard or some of the people in the national security system. They don't want to not talk to you. There's just so much madness that they got to handle on a day-to-day basis. And that's a challenge, but that's where leaders have to really rise to that and say, look, you're pushing something to the side and say, this is what I'm going to focus on. Because we have to have a vision for a future world that we're already into the third decade of the 21st century. When I was a kid growing up in the 20th century, the latter half of the 20th century, I'm thinking of, Man on Mars. I'm looking at all these science fiction shows, right? And here we are, the third decade of the 21st century already. And I still see kind of, maybe things haven't changed as much. But, so anyway, I just want to say I have deep respect for both of your countries, both of you. So honored to have gotten to know you, Your Excellency, over the last couple of months. And so let's give them a round of applause when we bring up our next guest.
Thank you, General Flynn, and General Hassan and Ambassador Roby. General Flynn talked about just the bandwidth. You mentioned the bandwidth that our secretaries of state have, and so on. It's possible that that would be alleviated had President Trump choose another national security advisor, but we'll save that conversation for another time. As happens often in Washington, schedules change last minute. So we're supposed to have Chairman Brian Mast for the Foreign Relations Committee here with us. But we do have Chairman Mast here with us, just remotely. We talk about, last night we had, Chairman, last night we had about 50 countries represented here with us. And over the course of today we had about 50 as well, thereabouts. And when we talk about partnerships, that is something that the Foreign Relations Committee takes very seriously. The chairman is a leader in that. Chairman Mast is a leader, and he understands the importance of partnerships, and he understands the importance of helping President Trump and promoting President Trump's agenda as well when it comes to partnerships. So I'm very pleased that he was able to join us today. Brian Mast is a true American hero. In the truest of sense, as an Army combat veteran, representing a true state of one that believes in all of the things that we hold dear in Florida in the 21st Congressional District. So, Chairman, they came to hear you, not me. So let me transfer it over to you.
Good. Thank you for transferring it over to me. Before I really get into it, let me just make sure audio sounds good. Everything sounds on point.
Perfect.
Very good. I heard General Flynn. I got the opportunity to listen to him a little bit, tuning into this a bit early. I heard him be analogous about working out. Just want to say, General Flynn, I assume you're there listening. You still look like you're hitting the gym, like you're working out, like you could still take somebody behind the woodshed and tune them up if you needed to. So that's a good thing to see. You spoke about relationships, and that's really what I want to get into. As chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, we're tasked with oversight of the State Department, the United States Department of State, which is supposed to see diplomacy, our relationships with other countries, working to make sure that the United States of America is the partner of choice, managing those relationships in many kinds of ways. And I want to give a couple of overarching ideas about our relationships, and then I want to get into a few specifics as we talk about this. The first overarching idea that I want to give as we talk about this, and I see some of the ambassadors, I've seen some of them in the audience and others that I've met with and that we have a relationship with, and I think this is one of the most hopeful and important things that I can say about relationship with the United States of America. The real relationships that we have with our allies. We manage trust. We manage trust between us and our partners. And I juxtapose that. And I think this is hard and fast. When you look at the relationships that those other axes have, like Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, Venezuela, others, you look at the relationships that they have to carry with one another, they do not manage relationships of trust like we do. They have to manage relationships of distrust, which puts them on an entirely different playing field, a lower playing field, than what we and our allies get to go out there and manage and work with one another. Now, in managing these relationships of trust, I think in many cases there has been a mismanagement of really looking at something that I think is looked at much better within the Department of Defense. And the Department of Defense, most of us would never consider it to be a rational thought that we would have forward deployed service members somewhere, that there wasn't a real interest for the United States of America to be involved, to have somebody in harm's way. That just wouldn't be rational, wouldn't make sense. But our United States Department of State does not have a history of looking at things in that way, in my opinion, and certainly not in the more recent previous administration does not have a history of looking at things in that way. It hasn't been asking the question, number one, what does the United States of America really need from a country or region? Oftentimes, those that have been Foreign Service officers, they've been perfectly fine glancing over that as a question entirely, not worrying about it all, even though they are stewards of United States resources and United States relationships, not asking at all, what do we need from that country or region, really just skipping to the question of, what does the country or region want from the United States of America, and forgetting about that we need to be on the other side of that as representatives of America. And that's a really sad thing in managing that relationship, to say that about what's taken place. And if they're not looking at both sides of that, what does that country or region want from the United States of America, but what does the United States of America need from that country or region, then we're never really getting to the point of, in us creating these partnerships, did what we provide get the United States of America what it needed? Whatever that might be, did it get us what we needed? And if we don't get to that point, it erodes the trust in the relationship that we have. It erodes our ability to go out there and actually have good partners, and leaves us in a situation in many times where we don't have partners, but we have dependents. And that is a very real problem that I think the United States of America has been working to manage throughout this Trump administration. And I am a supporter, absolutely, of the NATO alliance. But when I look at the NATO alliance, I use that as one of these examples where I think the president is very much looking to make sure that we reset three things on foreign policy. That America is not being taken advantage of, America is not being taken for granted, and America is not being taken lightly. Now, I put not being taken lightly on the Department of Defense. They're making sure that America is not taken lightly by our adversaries. But when I look at some of these relationships, like what NATO had allowed itself to devolve into, it's working to change these, but what it had allowed itself to move into, we saw a situation where the United States of America was being taken for granted. That we would be the security blanket for a continent against Soviet expansion, now Russian expansion, for an economy of scale, a population in total larger than ours, against a significantly smaller population, that we needed to be this overarching security blanket, and that Europe could produce as an economy of scale and a population of scale, being able to defend that on themselves. That was not a partnership. That was a dependency, and we've seen a very real reset look to take place, and I think that is taking place as an example to the point that we are not being taken for granted at this point. What's being done to reset that? Obviously, President Trump has been very strong about this, but you've seen the UK go out there and say, okay, we're going to put an additional $2 billion into defense every single year, to the point that we get an additional $20 billion. You see EU ranging between $150 to $300 billion in a sovereign debt defense fund, which is something that I'll grant them is a little bit more difficult for them to do with the way that they have to vote on things, but they weren't doing that in the past, and now they're working on doing that, and even having conversations about whether they're going to have a peacekeeping force of their own. When you see Germany saying, okay, we're willing to move $400, $500 billion in defense. Those are very real movements in Europe being able to undertake their own defense and be a real partner, and not be a real dependent on the United States of America. And I say this often to my colleagues, my counterparts in these other nations, other foreign affairs chairpersons and ambassadors and other people, that what the United States of America really needs out of NATO is and Europe is a Europe that doesn't need the United States of America. That doesn't mean that we cease to be there for one another, but how much stronger is our relationship if Europe can stand up and defend itself, and the United States of America can stand up and defend itself, and Europe if need be. But when together we both have those capabilities and we bring them to bear, we are a significantly stronger alliance. And we haven't been to that point in the past, and we're working on getting ourselves to that point now. Now, that was the example of making sure that we're not taken for granted, not taking advantage of, I think goes directly to trade policy, which is absolutely foreign policy. The trade policy where goods flow from other countries into the United States of America at a significantly lesser tariff rate or tax rate than what those goods are allowed to flow into other countries. That's taking the United States of America, that's taking advantage of the United States of America. And that's something that's not going to be allowed to take place as well. And the more and the better that we manage both of those things, the more that we allow ourselves to continue to manage what I think, what I opened with, which is so fundamental about our relationships, is that we manage our relationships as relationships of trust. And when we work through those difficult conversations, we get back to the point of having the highest levels of trust that we need to have with one another as these partnerships, as these relationships. And again, making sure that we answer those questions, number one, and that our diplomats are asking those questions. What does America actually need? And I know there's representation from African nations, and I heard questions about Angola in the past. I'm going to move this slightly to PEPFAR as an example to say again how we need to make sure that we continue to maintain these relationships of trust. PEPFAR is a very good example of United States of America soft power. Or that's what at least everybody would tell you that PEPFAR is supposed to be. It's an aid program that is a soft power, and a soft power by definition is supposed to be a level of influence. It's supposed to be something that we undertake, that we are hopefully by undertaking this, yes, we're doing something outstanding. We're stopping the spread of AIDS or reducing the spread of HIV. We're helping save people's lives. Those are all valiant and important things to do. But by doing that, we are supposed to be making the United States of America the partner of choice. By doing that and many other good things that we do across, whether Africa is that conversation or other places. But what we find ourselves witnessing in many cases are all too often countries that are willing to say, yes, we'd really like to take all of that assistance in terms of PEPFAR or something else, but we'd really like to play both sides of this and see what we can also garner out of China and the United States of America and pit those two great powers that are in a great power competition against one another so that we can reap more. And I've given this example before. I'm sure I have every confidence that General Flynn can relate to this. And this is the analogy that I'm going to give, and then I'm going to kind of, taper off. If there's an ability to facilitate a Q&A in this, I'm happy to stay on and do it. If there's not an ability to do that, I understand entirely. But I think General Flynn can absolutely relate to this. In military selections and assessments that we go out there and do, quite often we'll find ourselves holding up, large telephone pole-like logs, curling them up, putting them over our head, or sometimes it's, boat crews like people maybe see Navy SEALs go out there and do. They take boats, they hold them overhead, 4 to 6 men holding these very heavy objects overhead. And what you realize when you're doing this is a couple of different things. Sometimes you have people on your crew that bear more weight, and they bear more weight because they're taller than other individuals, and their hands just reach higher, they bear more weight. Some people are smaller, and they, by virtue of that, don't quite bear as much weight. That's analogous to what we have going on from country to country. Sometimes you have individuals that don't bear as much weight because they're just putting their hands up and they're pretending to grunt and groan and hold what's heavy overhead, but they're really just faking it and they're not putting a bunch of pressure on it. And so they're not bearing as much weight simply because they don't try as hard. We need partners that reach up and try as hard as possible to carry as much weight. That's what real partnerships are. That's what we need out of somebody that's on our crew as a member of the crew of the United States of America. The other thing that I would tell you about this analogy is that it never works for you to say, I'm going to put one hand on the log of this team over here, and I'm going to put one hand on the log of this team over here, or one hand on this boat and one hand on this boat, and try to hold up both of those boats, or try to hold up both of those logs. It doesn't work. You're never going to get that to work. And so, too, I use that to be analogous about the relationships that the United States of America has with our allies. Don't try to hold up both the boat of the United States of America and the boat of China. Because in the end, you're going to fail in doing so, which is going to result in a weakening of this relationship that when any nation really looks in the mirror, they're going to realize, you know what? What I want for my people, what I want for my country, what I want is what's provided by that alliance between the United States of America and Europe and EU and Japan and Australia and Israel and what exists between these relationships of trust versus what is afforded to the people under the flags of China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, Venezuela, etc. Two totally different paths. And anybody that would think they want the path, that alternative path, it should be a laughable idea that any leader of any nation would want to choose that alternative path for themselves or their people than the path of what falls under the relationship with the United States of America. But I would offer that warning: don't look to hold up both votes, because in the end, we will take it as a slight, and it will be a result in weakening the alliance as a whole. And in that, I thank you all for just hearing me out on a little bit on how I view foreign policy as chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee. Those are the lenses by which I look at what's taking place in the world, and the lenses by which I have conversations every single day with the Prime Minister, the Trade Minister, the Foreign Minister, the Defense Minister, the Ambassador, the King, Queen, Crown Prince, or President of whatever nation that might want to have an interest in speaking on any given day. And in that, I thank you again, General Flynn and Mr. Gold, for the invitation to join you all and speak. And again, if you can facilitate Q&A, I'm more than happy to stick around for it. If you can't, I understand.
We're going to try, but it's very interesting. You said what you said, and there was one point that I found interesting that you made that point. I often have. This one? Yeah. All right, let's try it. One of the points that I always make when foreign representatives come to the office and they say, okay, so I'm going to meet the members of Congress, or I'm going to meet any representative of our country, and I always start off with the first thing. When you walk into Chairman Mast's office or anyone's office, you walk in. Before you say anything, you say, here are a list of 5 things that I can offer you. This is what my country can do for you, and then you can ask what you want from the United States. It's always very important, because all too often we're just coming and we're just representatives are just coming in with requests, but never the other side of the partnership. It's only waiting for us to make that request. So as you articulated, the partnership is two-sided, and everybody has to understand that. So I thought that was excellent. I do want to try to see if we have an opportunity for questions.
Yes, and I do.
Let's try.
Can you have the chairman of the House Foreign Relations?
You may just have to repeat the question, because I might not hear it from the audience.
We have the chairman of the House Foreign Relations Committee there, foreign countries, House Foreign
But I can hear your microphone loud and clear that you're speaking into.
So take a chance. If you got a question, this is a shot right here, an open forum. We have 200. Brian, we have 200,000 people online listening to this right now, so I'm scaring the crap out of these people. But I want you to know, this is the chairman of the United States House of Representatives Foreign Relations Committee. And I know we've been great, so yes, sir. Right here. Come on up here, sir. Come on up here.
Has a microphone.
Okay, we're going to give him a microphone here, Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. It's Herman Terz from Spain, from Vox, from Patriots, from the European Parliament. I wanted to ask you, are you aware of the connections that we have between organized crime, socialism, Foro de Sao Paulo, Grupo de Puebla, all these criminal gangs in Latin America with Europe now in this moment? And specifically, do you know the name of Mr. Zapatero? José María Rodríguez Zapatero. José Luis Rodríguez Zapatero, former president of the government of Spain, who is the contact person between Venezuela's dictatorship and Spain, and so to the European Union.
Thank you for your question. I know not every single gang organization that exists there. I'll give you one specific example. When we're looking at Haiti, directly off of our shores, we see obviously a stronghold on the capital of Haiti, but that's conducted by half a dozen or more different gang organizations. So in any situation, as I'm looking at the nation, I thank my staff that I have an excellent staff and access to classified briefings that give me a great deal of knowledge, but I wouldn't pretend to you that I necessarily know every single gang organization and every single a strand of their affiliation across different places. But 100%, you're making the point that is accurate and true. There is global interconnectivity between America's nation-state adversaries and gang organizations across the globe that work to create chaos, whether in a country or a country in, simply our backyard or other places. And I do frequently receive briefs on those.
Great, thank you, Chairman. We have a couple people that lined up, so you can't see them now, but I'm going to have them come up to the mic and try not to make any long statements, okay, because of his time. Just get to the essence of your question in Kurdistan, right?
Yes.
So the first one's going to be from Kurdistan. Come on.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Great to see you, ma'am.
Great to see you. It was a great honor, Chairman Musk, to meet you back in May with Prime Minister Barzani of the Kurdistan region of Iraq. I posed this question earlier in a session on energy, but since we have your presence, I would like to pose this again. After Prime Minister Barzani's visit here, during which he announced 2 energy deals with American companies, we returned to Kurdistan, and since then, the region has been attacked by drones, by militias. 200,000 barrels of oil a day has been taken out from our oil production. 2 American companies that operated oil fields and invested in those oil fields were hit. What can the US Congress do to support Kurdistan region, which is your partner and your ally, and support these US companies that have invested in Kurdistan? And thank you once again.
And thank you. I've enjoyed you and I having the opportunity to develop a relationship, have meetings, inside of the Capitol. What we can do is very simple in many cases, and it often equates in this: what's my opinion and what is my policy? Now, I'm always happy to offer my opinion about that. I don't agree with this. I don't want to see this happen. I think that there should be a response in this way, XYZ, and I often offer those opinions as chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee. That does not mean that it is always policy of the United States of America that my opinion is going to take place. We are a large nation, 435 representatives, 100 senators, and a very large and expansive executive branch that will work together, but in large part have the executive branch take the lead on what will actually be the policy for what is conducted. But for my part, you will not receive bashfulness on identifying what is just and right and what is wrong. And I will always make sure that I'm clairvoyant on those points, because I think it doesn't do the United States of America any benefit to be bashful.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. Next up is General Shin from the Republic of Korea, South Korea.
It's a great honor to speak to you, and I'm a Major retired Shin, and I'm the Vice President of the Korea-US Alliance Foundation. As you know, the alliance between Korea and the United States has been the strength, actually, to deter not only North Korean threats like nuclear and the threat from the North Korea, and also we believe that it is a kind of deterrence against any other countries, including the China. And so the alliance during the last 70 years, we have been very successful to deter war around the peninsula, and also it is a strength that deter any threat in the region. And now the Korea is actually now we are about time to have a summit meeting. As you know, we have a new president, new government, but that we don't have the summit yet. But that hopefully we can have a summit in the near future, and we can strengthen the alliance for the next 70 years. As you know, the Korea-US alliance has been blood for the alliance right after the Korean War. And now we are looking for the next 70 years and expanding the alliance from the military now into the whole areas, like political area, economic area, and mostly like in the future, Korea and the United States will become the alliance of the culture, alliance of the economy, alliance of the people-to-people integration. And do you have any thought on the future alliance between Korea and the United States? Thank you.
Yeah, the thoughts that I would give you on it is this. We reflect on the relationship of the United States of America between your country. We were just moving legislation about that relationship in this past week in the Foreign Affairs Committee. But we reflect on it for all of the countries, across the region. And one of the things that I have a reflection on that I'll give you that is concerning to me, that I don't want to see out of any country. And that's to make sure we recognize what is your backyard. You have a greater proximity to China than what greater exposure to China than what we do, just by virtue of they are your close neighbor. You don't have a choice about that. We are a greater distance away. But what we always need to make sure that we see in the relationship is that, again, to go a little bit back to my formal comments, that we're not being used. That the United States of America is the valued partner and recognized for what it is, that no other country can provide, offer, or be the United States of America. There's not one. There's not one country, and there's not one alliance of countries that can replicate what the United States of America brings to bear that I have ever observed in this world to date. And in my recognition of that, it's just an overarching statement. The United States of America there, because you don't want to just end up a price taker for China, because without our presence, they get to control things totally, but you still want to have a very healthy China in the same way that's able to exert a large amount of influence. Don't play it both sides, because in the end, we will all be hurt by that instead of a steadfast commitment to what we want the world to look like or not look like. And I do find that this is, I'm not by any means trying to say that this is the case for you, but it is the case for some within your backyard, that they want to play both sides. They want to hold up both ships. They want our presence there as a check and balance for China, but not more than a check and balance for China. Nations in the region, especially in that region we are putting a greater emphasis, a greater focus on, need to make those decisions.
Excellent. I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself. But again, I'm looking at your time, Chairman. We have just a couple of minutes, so we'll get to the question.
Of course I do, General.
Canada.
Thanks so much, Honorable Miss. I'm originally from Canada, originally rooted from Kurdistan. I want to say that Sykes-Picot divided 4 parts of Kurdistan should not be left in again and without support from United States. Obama did a mistake in January 2011 when took out the military, and ISIS came in and Iran came in. Please convey the message that Kurdistan has to be supported. And last thing, quickly.
Can I pause you for one moment before you move on and just say, look, again, there's what's my opinion and there's what's policy. And just in support of Kurdistan, I've always been in support of a strong and independent Kurdistan. I think there's been different opportunities to carve out that space. I've always been hopeful that that would take place. That's my opinion. It's not policy, but I'm never going to be bashful about offering my opinion for what would be an incredible ally to the United States of America.
I really appreciate and thank you so much. That's what we are proud of you. But al-Barak is a wrong selection for Kurdistan and Syria, and I think is a mistake by administration. Please fix that. Thank you. Okay.
What I think is important that we have from those partners, and that we've seen in large part, is do we have a partner that's willing to show that they're more concerned about a free and independent and democratic future for their people than support for a political Muslim state for their people. And as long as we have a leader that's willing to push towards one of those, they're probably putting their own life in danger. I'm not under the illusion that it's going to be without incident, and this entirely peaceful movement. I think that's an unreasonable expectation as much as I'd love to see it. But as long as I'm seeing partners that are willing to make that move towards saying, you know, we want to see a free, independent, democratic move for our country, then I'm willing to be supportive of giving them the opportunity to advance that for their people.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, General. Brian, thank you very much for your strong statement. I appreciate it a lot, especially I like your idea that the USA should be the chosen partner of all states, which used to be for Europeans for decades. I'm Peter Byström. I'm representing the AFD in the Foreign Policy Committee in the European Parliament. So when I will come back, I would like to tell my colleagues, what would you recommend us, how we can stop the war in Ukraine as President Trump addressed it and wanted, you know, because we are trying to do it since 3 years by delivering weapons to Ukraine. Obviously it doesn't work, so how should we do it together, USA and Europe? Thank you.
Is that the question? What's Brian Mast's silver bullet to stopping the war in Ukraine?
Good luck. I don't want to answer it.
You wanted an easy one.
There's not I don't have a silver bullet for stopping the war in Ukraine, but I'll give analysis surrounding it. My opinion, again, offering my opinion of analysis surrounding. I think Vladimir Putin is, with the exception of the war in Ukraine, has been a master at calculating, where he can make a small investment and have a major return on his influence and calculate correctly that the world is not going to do a whole lot more than gripe and bitch and complain about it, but not much more. And I think he's calculated that very well, whether in Venezuela or with expeditionary groups across Syria, obviously what's taken place in Georgia, and I think a major miscalculation in Ukraine. But I think he's calculated very well outside of that. And part of what allows him to have this calculation, in my opinion, is that he has been trained like Pavlov's dog. He has been trained that if he says to anybody, if you do that, I consider that an act of war, then everybody will step back and assume that he means an unconventional thermonuclear act of war. And that is the ladder of escalation. He says act of war, and we go to, you know, that. And I think he loves being able to play that card. That's part of, you know, him being able to fight outside his weight class as a nuclear power. And I think the world needs to reevaluate whether that card is always going to be allowed to be played or not. And reevaluate diligently. Very diligently, because never do any of us want to be in a situation where we have to say, you know what, there's not a 0% chance of nuclear war right now. It's not a pleasant situation to be in when you really think about that. But I think we do need to constantly reevaluate whether we're going to allow him to play that card over and over again.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Brian Summers, the Jesse Helm Center. I wanted to ask, many Americans in this country struggle with what we can do to help your Congress and globally. Human trafficking is a huge issue, and it's a human rights issue as well. And just what can we do here to try to get our congressmen and senators to really get more global police on the issue of human trafficking, especially in third world countries, poor countries, where they're just being used in such horrible ways?
A scourge of the earth, undoubtedly. I'm going to start with a backpatting. That's what I was looking for right there. The fact of the matter is, President Trump, Mr. Holman, Kristi Noem, they have undoubtedly made the largest break on human trafficking in I don't know how many years, but pick an amount of years, certainly in the last 6 months, but in a number of years on securing the United States of America's southern border and creating the situation that there's not an easy way to move, you know, whether it's, you know, people, drugs, weapons, you name it, in a legal fashion across our border. They're making that the case. That's having a tremendous impact on human trafficking, and I would thank them for that. I need stronger words to thank them for that. I don't have the strong enough words to thank them for that. Across the globe, this is something, again, we need to look at it as a scourge. I don't have a silver bullet for how we fix it all, other than the more that we secure our sovereign borders and have a strong understanding, a crystal clear understanding of what is traversing through our borders, the more that we get to not be naive about where somebody is being trafficked or not trafficked, not get to claim ignorance on it, but look at the situation for exactly what it is and know that it is a conscious effort and capability to stop it if we do, and if we don't, it's because there was a choice that was made to ignore it.
Chairman, we're going to go 2 more questions, okay, if you don't mind? Please. Maybe a quick one.
Sounds good, General.
Good afternoon, Chairman Moss. My name is Rob Roos. I'm a former member of the European Parliament, and I have a question about the European Union. We see a trend where populist parties who receive a significant position in national politics, like AFD, Vox in Spain, AFD in Germany, Rassemblement National in France, that these parties, to protect democracy, are being sidelined or even banned from running for the next elections. What is the position of the US in this situation? Thank you.
I want to say about 10 times I've taken an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And there are a number of things that we say. We say these things because we believe these things as a part of our Constitution. And those fundamental freedoms of religion and press and speech and the right to petition your government, these fundamental freedoms, we believe in those things. And we've always believed, in my opinion, that we've sought to ally with countries that believe in those things, and that sometimes, again, as much as I'd stomp somebody that I saw stomping my flag, I can tell you we still believe that somebody, they're not jailed for doing it in our country. As much as I disagree with it, they're not jailed for doing it. We're looking for partners that are, willing to go out there and support freedom. Always be willing to tell the truth about what it is, but obviously myself, my president, others, we have very real problems with press that pretends to operate under free press but is not really operating as press. We have real problems with that. There's a line in there, but we want to see support for our constitutional values. As much as not everybody has our Constitution, we would love to see those values adhered to across the globe, because we believe those are fundamental to all people as a birthright gift, not as something that's provided by governments. So we want to see that support across the globe, and that's what we support.
Beautiful. Great answer. Last question.
Good afternoon, Chairman Ann Vandersteel, co-founder of American Made Action, American Made Foundation, also a host.
Nice to see you, Ann.
Good to see you too. Question on human trafficking, weaponized human migration, the international compact on migration, the UN compact. The United States is a massive funder, as you know, to the United Nations, which funds the International Organization on Migration. And in the spirit of war, one of the biggest tools for war is weaponized human migration. We've seen it in this country up close and personal, as they have all over Europe and around the world, frankly. What is the concrete oversight mechanisms that your committee is actually going to place, put into place to ensure that this international migration framework under the United Nations Global Compact does not override the sovereign rights of nations to control their borders?
Yeah, it's a good question. And what I'll tell you is what we'll do, but it's not the end-all be-all in securing this. We deal with, obviously, UN everything. And the answer to that is all of the UN is under review. It was going to be under the review of what we support under what was going to be Ambassador Elise Stefanik to the UN. Now it's going to be Michael Waltz, who I have every confidence in his ability to go there and truly shake things up. But you've seen where many of these programs, we say, okay, we're evaluating UNRWA. Nope, we're not going to be a part of UNRWA anymore. We're evaluating World Health Organization and what they have been a part of, in our opinion, of supporting China and really defending them throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. Nope, we're not going to be there. UNESCO was the most recent one as of late. So the list goes on and on. I think this will be most scrutinized by our new ambassador to the UN to decide this is not going to be something that we allow an overreach to touch the citizens of the United States of America in any way, shape, or form. That's where the end-all, be-all of it is. That's really where the power in our government to say where's there going to be a shield against what we would consider to be a UN overreach. Where my lane from it comes from, again, it's part of it, but I think I consider it a little bit more peripheral to it, is what does the United States of America, if anything, do outside of its mandatory contributions to the United Nations? We have a mandatory contribution. I don't believe that we're going to step away from that by any means, but what do we do in terms of the voluntary contributions into these other programs? And if we don't believe in them, we are not going to obviously put forward any support into them whatsoever. And I would give you one other point. And again, I know this is a global forum of people looking at this. I can tell you the United States of America, especially historically being the largest supporter of many of these voluntary contributions, I think you can have every expectation that if we're going to be involved, you can expect us to want to put up a secretary for whatever that specific arm is of the United States of America, because you're not going to see our support for those things without us exerting a higher level of control given what we've seen in the past.
Yeah, great, thank you. All right, Chairman, thank you so much for your time, and let's give him a big round of applause.
Thank you, gentlemen.
And thank you for your time, thank you for your service to this country. In uniform and out of uniform, and you're doing extraordinary work. And one of the themes that keeps coming out today by some of the presenters and the people that are here is leadership. And what you're witnessing right here in this gentleman is a case of that. It's a case study in leadership. And thank God we have him on our team and running our foreign relations, particularly in the House of Representatives. Really, really important comments in his analogy about you either got to hold one boat, because if you're holding two, it's just not going to work that way. So, God bless you, Brian. Thank you very much.
God bless, sir, and thank you.
Okay, I'm going to turn it back over to Boone. I know we have the next panel coming up, so I'll let you have it here, Boone. Okay. Great. Thank you, sir.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen. You guys hear me out there? Hey, here's what we're going to do. We've been talking all day long about partnerships, about alliances, and we're going to bring up a panel. But I want to include, we've got time. This is where we make this happen. We've been talking about, hey, what can you do for me? What can I do for you? How can we help each other? So after I ask these questions of this panel, I'm going to go to the audience. So if you are a person here representing your country, please, the guy over here in the big blue jacket has got a microphone. He's going to bring it to you. And if I can possibly get somebody else from our team to get on this side of the room with a microphone, we can go to you too. But right now I'm going to call up the panel. Ambassador from Hungary, Szabacs Takács. Come on up, sir.
Hello. Pleased to meet you.
Right there, sir. Outstanding. From Germany, Petr Bistron. Please come on up. The ambassador from Azerbaijan, Guzar Ibrahim, please come on up. Foreign Minister Safin Dazai, please come on up. I saw you yesterday. I hope you're still here. And if you see any of these folks that are kind of out there, we're still looking for Petr. Petr, where are you? Hopefully he'll come up here pretty soon when he does. That one, who's on that side?
Katie.
Katie's on that side? Okay, make sure you watch that button, because if it goes green, it's on. It kind of goes on by itself sometimes too. Okay, in school you guys always wanted the questions first with the answers, so I'm going to give you all the questions that we're going to be talking about today. But these three gentlemen, come on up here. Here's Petr right there. We're going to ask 3 questions, and these are the same 3 questions that if you are here representing your country, start thinking about the answer. Let's get it out in the open. General Flynn said get louder. This is the time when we do that. So here's the 3 questions we're going to ask today, and you guys can take 5 minutes and answer all 3, kind of wrap it into one thing. First of all, first question, what is happening in your country that others need to know about, that they don't know about? What does your country need from the United States? And what does the United States need from your countries that we need to know about, that have been overlooked? This is the question I heard back here. There are things that are overlooked. So question number 1, what's going on in your country? Number 2, what do you need from the United States? And number 3, what is it that's being overlooked that we can use from you? Sir. You do need a microphone.
Thank you very much. And first of all, good afternoon to everyone. Thank you, Mr. Gold, General Flynn, for putting this conference together. I'm the Hungarian ambassador serving in this country for more than 4 years. So I have seen a couple of things in the US. How much time I have?
Take 5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay, because what is happening in my country?
Easy question, right?
Very easy question.
You just got it in and out. Maybe there's... Take your time.
Look,
take your time.
Hungary, we are a country of 1100 years, so it's a long history, and we are in Central Europe, member of the European Union, member of NATO, and the general ally, the United States of America, a country which has always looked at as a strongest partner in making peace, international security. And in my country, what is happening? We have a conservative government of Viktor Orban, a person who I think is very well known. He is punching above the weight of the country. He has been governing the country since 2010, and in the meantime he has won 4 elections democratically. So there's a strong support, social support behind him. And I think he's one of the global leaders of as we see, common sense, conservative values, and as such, of course, it's very automatically and very quite naturally put us on the track that we were looking for partners in the United States who are thinking along the same lines as we do. So what, trying to answer the first question, also some flashes to the second one. What we needed from the United States, in fact, we got it last November, because not only the Republican Party, but common sense won, I think, in America, and we could get back on the track where there is a sensible dialogue between my country and the USA. The 2 leaders, President Trump and Prime Minister Orban, are very good friends, personal friends. Orban was the only foreign leader who visited Trump while he was out of the White House. In the campaign trail last year, President Trump referred to Orban 113 times. I know I had to count it on the ambassador, so I had to make a count. Orban was the only leader who was invited to a CPEC conference a couple of years ago in Dallas, 2022. And when he delivered the speech, first he was hesitant to come because, okay, I mean, I'm a prime minister of a country of 10 million. And maybe it's not very polite to come to America and tell the Americans what to do. But eventually we convinced him to come, and when he was on stage in Dallas, he said that he's not here because we are a military might, although member of NATO, valuable member of NATO. We have been serving in line with the USA in Afghanistan and Balkans, everywhere. And it's not our economic performance. The GDP of Texas is probably 10 times bigger than the GDP of Hungary. But he said that he came because he's a leader who has won many elections, and he has a recipe how you can win elections democratically based on traditional conservative values. And social conservatism is something which brought the 2 leaders very close to each other. And as part of that, a very strong stance against illegal immigration. What has been happening in Europe since 2015 is insane. Hungary has been a leader on fighting politically within the European Union debates for 10 years now, for sensibility vis-à-vis immigration and illegal immigration. So we are defending the southern border of Europe. We did not need to build a wall, but we built a fence that, of course, the liberals and globalists kept calling a wall. and they called us, xenophobic and undemocratic and autocratic, just because we are on the one hand fulfilling European law, fulfilling the law of the Schengen area, to defend the borders, and we are, for a strange reason, we are trying to defend the interests of Hungarian people, both socially and economically and security-wise. This political fight has been going on for a long time. As one of the very important new development, last year, Orbán and some of his political allies established the Patriot Party, and I'm very pleased to welcome members of the Patriots here from Vox. Great to see you. And I think the Patriot Party is now the third largest group in the European Parliament, and I very much agree with those who, in questions before, referred to some very undemocratic, anti-democratic decisions within members of the European Union when they want to ban politicians to enter in politics. Look at them. I don't want to name countries. Diplomats should refrain from that, but I think you know what I'm talking about. And this is outrageous. But we cannot give up this fight, and we are very much prepared for this. We have been doing that for many years now. And it's outrageous that we are penalized by the European Union bodies, the Commission and the European Court of Justice for fulfilling law and defending the borders. We have to pay a $200 million fine or euro fine, and we are paying €1 million per day as a ruling of the European Court of Justice for defending the border. But we Hungarians, we don't look at that as a fine. We try to be very positive and optimistic. We say that this is the best investment in the future. And we are investing in security. We are investing in family. Hungary has, I think, one of the strongest family policies in the world. We almost spend 6% of our GDP on families. Now, if you are a mother of 3 now in Hungary, you don't pay tax ever in your life. And from the 1st of January next year, if you are a mother of 2, you don't pay tax ever in your life. Because we are investing in families, we are investing in the young generation, and that's a very strong strategic goal of my country. We have to modify our constitution, the basic law of Hungary, and now it's in the Hungarian basic law that the family consists of one man and one woman, where the father is a man and the mother is a woman. 10 years ago, everybody thought that we are crazy to do that, but now I think what is happening in the world, I think it doesn't seem so crazy at all. So we are very social conservative, anti-woke, anti-globalist, pro-security, anti-illegal immigration. And our foreign policy, of course, it's a difficult place where I live. If you look at the map, Central Europe, we are neighboring the country of Ukraine, which has been suffering one of the worst periods of its modern history, a war that has been going on for years now, and we were really expecting someone in the White House who is able to stop the war, and I believe that this is only the President of the United States of America who is able to do that. The partners are not easy on the other side, and our concern is that neither Russia nor Ukraine eventually want to end the war. And we are very pro-peace, and we are very supportive to President Trump, whatever he's doing. And certainly, somebody just referred to President Putin and his tactics. Yes, it's true, but I think diplomacy is about discussion, and President Trump has been trying to do everything so far, and we keep supporting him to bring peace to Ukraine. Of course, the negative impacts are just immeasurable. The devastation to life in Ukraine, about the country and everything. So if the country wants to have a future, the sooner the better the war should be stopped. It's not easy, and our platform is not enough to discuss all the details. I'm very happy to answer questions if you might have. And
one final question. I do have a question. What is being overlooked by the United States that the United States can use from Hungary?
This is what I refer to, the policy of Orbán. He's been in politics for over 30 years. 15 years he was in opposition, 15 years he was in government. He came back democratically. And people, when they call him dictator, I always say that in my historical knowledge, dictators rarely go into opposition. And maybe the experience, and maybe the geography where we are. Maybe something about Russia. Russia, as a country, came to Hungary 3 times in the last 150 years with military forces, and they never brought too much good. So we have some historical experience, but still I believe that we need a sensible approach to what is happening, because the options are either continuing the war or stopping the war. I think the Russians are able to continue the war for a long time. I don't know, I'm not a military expert, if they can be defeated militarily, but if it is the case, it will have a very huge price for everyone. So that's why we are opting for peace rather than going into war. This is something maybe that you can learn. And one more thing that I'm not saying that the USA should be learning from us. It would be, I think, a bit arrogant to say. But we are probably the only country in Europe now, for a variety of reasons, with our social composition and everything. We are the most pro-Israel country in the European Union. And our foreign policy is very much stressed on supporting Israel and peace in the Middle East, while we are having excellent ties with many Arab countries. And the fight against anti-Semitism is a huge problem in Europe and in this country as well. This is just very important detail of foreign policy, but yeah, maybe that's in a nutshell. Thank you very much for the invitation.
Any questions for the ambassador before we pass the microphone?
Yes. Is it difficult to balance your relationship with your Arab allies and your support of Israel? How do you manage that?
No, it's not difficult, because I think there are many sensible...
Repeat the question if you don't mind going further.
The question was, do you have difficulty balancing your relationship with your Arab allies because of your pro-Israel alliance?
Well, I know it's not difficult, because there are many sensible politicians in the Arab countries, important countries in the Gulf especially, and elsewhere. Morocco and Hungary has traditionally very good ties with them. I'm not saying that we are serving as an interlocutor, but even that we can do. So we were supporting the Abraham Accords, which was one of the most successful political trials to bring peace to the Middle East, and it should be continued. By the way, at the time, the Hungarian foreign minister was the only foreign minister who was invited to the White House when it was signed in September 2020 it was. So it's not that difficult. You have to be very clear, and you have to make a very direct line between terrorists and between democratic leaders and politicians. And if you are able to do that, that's not that difficult.
And can you explain why Hungary banned the Open Society Foundations and George Soros?
Why we banned the Open Society Foundation and George Soros?
Yeah.
Now, that's going to be a long discussion, of course. Well, I mean, look, every country has a right to see transparently what is happening in their country. I know that you support that.
We'd like to do the same thing.
Yeah, because I think they were doing things to undermine the democratically elected governments in Hungary, and we wanted to create transparency, and they were always seeking. And well, I mean, we did not ban them. We just told them that they have to comply with Hungarian law, and that's as easy as that. And they could not. And if somebody can comply with law, then they can stay. If they cannot stay. That's as easy as that.
Good question. Thank you. Thank you very much. And next to Foreign Minister, let me get this right, Desai, correct? Sir, the three questions, please pass the microphone there. The three questions, just to recap, what's going on in your country? What is it the United States can do for your country? And what can you do for the United States that's being overlooked?
Well, thank you very much, Honourable General. Thank you for your invitation. It's good to be back here in Washington after 2 months. As my colleague earlier disclosed that you were here 2 months ago, the Prime Minister. My name is Stefan Dizei. I'm Minister with the Kurdistan Regional Government of Iraq, responsible for Department of Foreign Relations. Indeed, we were here 2 months ago. First visit by our Prime Minister under the new administration, discussing what was going on in the region. Now, of course, that was before the 12-day war and the unfolding developments in the region. In that stay, we also discussed economical issues and signing of a $110 billion deal with 2 American oil companies. I told the Prime Minister when we go back, probably we'll be welcomed with fireworks and what have you. Yes, there were different fireworks and there were drones. And unfortunately, this has affected the production level 4 fields were hit, Norwegian, 2 American, and 1 Kurdish. If I'm allowed, I have to go back to 1991. It was a turning point in the history of the Middle East when the international coalition forces, let's say, evicted Iraqi army under Saddam Hussein from Kuwait. That also was a prelude. It gave an opportunity for Iraqi people to rise up against the regime and to liberate themselves. Sadly, it didn't turn out the way that we had planned. So the wrath of the former regime against the people was so immense, and people fled to the mountains, particularly in Kurdistan, under the fear of use of chemical weapons again, which was used earlier, 3 years in 1988 in Halabja. So we had the exodus of the 2 million stranded along the borders of Iran and Turkey. And the international community, they were at a very difficult crossroad. I think it was James Baker at that time who flew to the region. And on the way back, he called the president, we have to do something. And much of the credit goes to the United States. And I also have to honor the former president of France, late Mitterrand, and also Sir John Major, who helped to establish the safe haven and the Operation Provide Comfort, no-fly zone, 36 parallel, which allowed, or it at least provided, the conducive situation for the people to go back to their homes and rebuild their lives around the destroyed communities. The people of Kurdistan of Iraq, since the foundation of the state of Iraq, have been fighting for their rights, and they have given a lot of sacrifices. But the turning point, or the foundation stones of what we have today, was actually laid in 1991. Often I talk to our American friends. They have not been promoting that story of success. A lot of credit goes to the United States. What we have achieved in Kurdistan today, it wouldn't have been easy without your support. Again, in 2023, the United States and other coalition members were there for us to have, although some people call it invasion of Iraq, we still call it liberation of Iraq. Iraq indeed was liberated from the dictatorship. 2014, ISIS was on the door of the capital of Kurdistan region, Erbil. Again, our allies were there for us. So different stations, different times, different needs, we were working together as allies and partners. Perhaps the current Iraq is facing difficulties, and the drones, by the way, they came from within Iraq, from certain trigger-happy, loose militia forces. And they have to be held accountable. It shouldn't be let go by targeting US companies, by targeting even civilian targets, as we have seen, ballistic missiles, drones, and so on. So this is another area that we have to work together. We are cooperating with the federal government in Baghdad in order to put an end to this kind of behavior. Earlier, the discussions were talked about alliances and partnership. Alliance, yes, it's good to have the United States as an ally, but probably partnership is much more effective. Partnership is something that two partners or more come together, agree on certain principles, values, agreements, which would be vested interests of protecting and respecting each other's interests. Strong partnership would lead to, I would say, building a strong alliance, solidifying alliances. And we believe in Kurdistan. What has been offered by the United States and other partners is highly appreciated, and we have proven to be a reliable partner in this volatile region, in this area which is full of unpredictabilities, and a lot of things are happening which often is outside the calculation or the equations or the analysis of people who are experts in the area. So what we definitely can offer to the United States and the free world is a beacon of hope for Kurdistan in this shark-infested waters, for freedom and democratic living people, a sanctuary, a bastion, a safe haven for people in need, as we have done so. 250,000 people fled from Syria in 2011 to 265,000 to be exact. They were accommodated, they are still with us. 2 million people from the rest of Iraq during the height of the ISIS war, IDPs, fled to Kurdistan, be it Sunni Arabs, Shiite Arabs, Turkomans, Assyrians, Chaldeans, Muslims, Christians, Sabias, Baha'is, Yazidis. They're all living there, and we would like to promote Kurdistan. We believe in coexistence. The asks is, please continue to support Kurdistan to remain a beacon of hope for others. Help prosperity and the peaceful coexistence that we have with different communities, different ethnic groups, and different religions and creeds. And this is what is so special about Kurdistan. Thank you.
What is your relationship with Iran, officially?
Iran is a neighbor. It's a regional power.
Horrible one.
We have a long history, not only Iran as a state, but also there are our brethren, over 10 million Kurds living in Kurdistan. In addition to that, there's a diplomatic relation of Iran with Iraq, Consulate General of Iran in Erbil. We would like to be as two good neighbors and respect each other. But how much of that is being reciprocated, that's a different matter.
How much?
Well, we have not been immune from ballistic missiles, and civilians have been targeted, unfortunately.
We didn't have a choice to get a better neighbor.
Hard to pick your neighbor sometimes.
Yeah.
Any other questions for the reformers?
No choice.
Do you still seek an independent Kurdistan? Is that still an aspiration for the Kurdish people across all the borders?
I think if you ask ordinary Kurds, I think that without any hesitation they would say yes. But I think political leaders, they have to be more pragmatic, more responsible. It's a dream, yes, but I think it's the responsibility of leaders to make sure that dreams don't turn into nightmares.
One second, we're coming right to you, sir.
Thank you very much for this great opportunity, and thank you, General. Thank you, Eli. Welcome back to DC, Mr. Zaid. I would like to ask you, 2 months ago, you were here with Prime Minister Barzani, and for the first time you signed $110 billion with 2 U.S. companies about the oil and gas. And after that we see you became under attack by drones, even attack oil fields in Kurdistan, and it is effect of price of oil, regionally and internationally. How United States of America can help you to have a sky defense? Thank you.
Yeah, the question is, how can the United States help you with air defense?
I've been here for a week. Basically, this visit was a follow-up to the visit of the Prime Minister 2 months ago, and we have been having extremely good meetings with the administration and on the Hill, and I'm very happy to be here today. We have been discussing these issues. I mean, as you may well know, that we already have a memorandum of understanding with the DoD, which provides training programs and also reform in our security and Peshmerga forces structure. We have been discussing this issue not currently but long ago about their defense system. It's something, obviously, we are, Kurdistan of Iraq is part of Iraq, it's a federal Iraq, and everything has to go through Baghdad. So the administration here has to work with Baghdad in order to have the approval of providing such material and equipment to Peshmerga forces in Kurdistan. We underline the need for that again, so hopefully our colleagues on the Hill would be able to press the administration, if I can say so, to expedite the process.
Any other questions? Give a round of applause. And the Honorable Petra Bistron. Sir, your 3 questions. What do you guys got going on? What can you do for us? What can we do for you?
First, thank you, Mr. God, General, for this fantastic conference, for the possibility for me to speak here. Well, what you don't know about Germany? Maybe that there is a terrible oppression of opposition. While I'm speaking here, I have the 20-second home searching online on completely false accusations, like Donald Trump had. Yeah. We have people, members of parliament, they are beaten nearly to death on the streets by left extremists of Antifa who are financed through NGOs by the state. We have censorship within the media and the social networks. Our cars are burned down. There are cases like, but it's not just about the opposition in the parliament, it's also about the street opposition. Michael Flynn, just one example, leader of demonstration against the government, who was able to mobilize 200,000 people every week. He was sent into prison for 9 months without a trial. The accusation was that there is some tax fraud and he should pay some money for 9 months. And now, after 2 years, it comes out that the state owes him money. They should pay him 200,000 euro on taxes back. So this is what is happening in Germany day by day. It's hitting ordinary people. We had 170 home searching in 1 day because of Facebook memes. People get home searching because of Facebook memes. And this is Germany 2025. Okay, what can the USA do against this or for us? You're already doing the right thing. I mean, J.D. Vance was quite clear in Munich at the Munich Security Conference. Just go in and tell them that you know and that you strongly disagree, that this is not democracy, that you are fighting for free speech, for the rule of law, and for democracy. And defund all those USAID, Soros, NGOs, and so on. Because what was happening the last decades was very often financed from here, from the USA, through the USA. And don't let the deep state present himself as the United States of America. Don't let them destroy your very good name in the world. Don't let them misuse the United States of America for their purposes. This is the crucial thing. And defund the OCCR. This is a media network which is paying the biggest media houses across Europe. In Germany, Der Spiegel, Süddeutsche Zeitung, in France, Le Monde, in Spain, El Mundo. And they have been paying them secretly nearly $50 million in the last years just for spreading propaganda, blackmailing opposition. OCCRP. The full name is Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting something. I think you could scratch the R because it's not reporting, it's just organized crime and corruption. And they again, I think, but you will find it easily. It was even disclosed that they have been financed secretly from the US and USAID. Sorry, USAID. All right, correction. It works. Yeah, thank you, General Flynn. surprisingly, they are not reporting on this, those big medias. Yeah? So, yeah. What was the third question?
I think you said what we can do for you. What can you do for us?
Yeah, what we can do for you and what you should know. That you have a lot of fans in Germany, and Germany and the USA, they have very strong ties. Quite everybody I'm meeting in Germany says, "Oh, I have some relatives. We are from Germany, or my relatives used to live in Germany." So, on one side and the other side of the Atlantic, there are friends. And then once again, but the people in Germany, they love the USA of stars and stripes, not of the LGBTQ flag. Yes. Once again, make clear that the Biden, what Biden administration was representing, it's not the true USA. And then you will be the partner of choice. And this is a true friendship and true relationship. Thank you.
Earlier in the day, we had something beautiful happen with Uganda and Angola, and said, "Hey, this is what's going on. You guys don't know about it." Is there anybody in here that's representing a country that says, "Hey, there's something you don't know about that you need to know about because we can work together, we can partner together now, we can build that alliance now"? If you are here and you have that to offer and say, raise your hand. We're going to microphone to you. Let's have that conversation. Angola, would you like to go a little bit more? Come on. You got a green light there?
Thank you. Thank you very much. My colleague, Fernando, he was the one from Angola. We were just sitting together. My name is Victor. I'm from the Embassy of Equatorial Guinea, and I'd like to make a few remarks with the permission of my ambassador who's sitting here in front of me. Thank you for this opportunity. Sometimes from the African perspective, we receive mixed signals, and we don't know if we want it at the table, we want it at the side table, or we just don't want it Better like this? Okay, perfect. So thank you for this opportunity and for putting a segment on Africa. Equatorial Guinea is a small country. Many people haven't heard about it. It's in the Gulf of Guinea. It's the size of Maryland, 1.5 million people. And our economy is 95% dominated by oil and gas. So it's been some rough times since 2014, 2015 when the oil prices came down, but also we've had a very important impact on our economy for the narrative, for the new policies on energy transition. In Africa, we're on the first stage. We haven't consolidated energy for all of our people. And the conversation, the laws, the policies about transitioning without being there first, it's very
yeah, it's very important. So sit here.
Thank you, General. So the conversation and the policies in the rapid transition about clean energy right now, right here, can be burdening for some of us. We do believe in the importance of climate change, but it has to be done at a reasonable rate. That's what I wanted to say in terms of energy. So this government bringing back, questioning those aspects of the rapid transition to clean energies and the discrediting of oil and gas has had a toll on us. You were asking what's happening in my country. Those are the kind of dilemmas that we have right now. Earlier this month, we have a gathering of presidents of the Central African region. My president, President Obiang, is chairing. This year he's chairing the commission, and we had a conversation about the deal that was sponsored by your president between the DRC and Rwanda. Those are very important members of our central region, and we welcome the president's welcome and endorse the deal that was sponsored by your president, and they thank him for doing that. In terms of peace and security, what Equatorial Guinea can offer is our strategic position. We have a non-contiguous country. It's part mainland, it's part island, and we have a strategic position in the Gulf of Guinea. We share interests, especially in security, Equatorial Guinea and the United States of America, for example, in freedom of navigation. There are serious crimes, there are serious acts that are being committed in that part of the world, and it's important that we combat those aspects of international relations, trafficking in persons, protection of infrastructure. Those are things that we can work on, and we've been working with the U.S. throughout the years, but we want to reinforce that cooperation to ensure that our shared interests in that part of the world are contemplated, and we're a very good ally, and we're very well positioned for that. In terms of what America can do for Equatorial Guinea, and pretty much for Africa, because all the aspect of the things that we were discussing in that important meeting is African peace and security. A more secure Africa is a more secure America. And that goes along with the push you're doing for Europe to take more responsibility for its own security. We want the same thing. We don't want to have to come to, we do appreciate the support and the aid, but we don't want to have to America to solve our problems. We want to be able to tackle them ourselves. So it's important that you can support Africa's push for taking its own security for themselves. In terms of other things that is in the international agenda, for example, in the bilateral relation or multilateral relation, because I'm talking about Africa and the United States, it's extractive industries, it's minerals, it's rare minerals. It's important that in your strategy, in our own strategies, defense strategies, we contemplate the identification of bad actors, people, organizations, individuals that inject themselves in the processes with illegitimate interests. There are legitimate interests that everybody has. America has legitimate interests. Other people have legitimate interests, and they can be beyond your own borders as long as it benefits both parties. But there are some actors acting in the shadows that are creating, frankly, a lot of trouble. And we would like to have that conversation with the United States too.
Who are these bad actors in the shadows?
The question is, who are the bad actors in the shadows?
Well, that's why I say that we have to identify them, because they keep themselves in the shadows. We don't know who they are, but we see the results of the actions that they do, who they finance, where they put their money, the situations that they provoke. So it's important that we identify them and we deny them access to the international financial system, for example.
Thank you.
Mine is really to say, when we stand with America, when America stands with us, it's also important that America's friends stand with us. To that extent, I'd like to acknowledge my colleague ambassador from Hungary for not just being there, but physically coming to Uganda when we were taking charge of what a family looks like and what constitutes a family. So thank you for that.
Is there anybody else in the room that represents a country you'd like to have the same discussion here for everybody? Okay, with that, I'm going to turn it over to General Flynn. You probably want to keep the panel here, and we can close out the closing, whatever you got to do. I think we're finished with this. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Another round of applause.
Okay.
So I know that General Flynn has some important thoughts and comments that he wants to make, but we are winding down, and I did want to give some closing thoughts. First of all, General Flynn, with your military time, we have accomplished something in Washington that we've never done before, ever, in Washington. And we have ended an hour early than we had planned. So, kudos to you for doing that. That is always important. You know, I also want to make sure that I don't skip this. You know, this conference has been the work of an entire team. But it couldn't have been done without General Flynn's assistant, who's sitting in the back. Maybe you can stand up. Melissa, if everybody has a Melissa back then things would move a lot quicker. So, but thank you. But this, you know, we look at today's conference and last night as well, the comments, the conversations that we've had with people. We had, as we've said so many times before, we had 50 countries represented. We had the chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee. We had a variety of different people, of different agencies and departments and of different stature, all coming here because this was a very, very important discussion. Talking about partnerships in the fashion that we did, bringing in countries from Africa, the size of Maryland. I live in Maryland. I bet you I'd rather live in Africa than Equatorial Guinea than in Maryland. But that's a conversation for another time. But this is bringing this. This is an opportunity. This is a really big opportunity. But we talk about partnerships, and partnerships are not easy. It is not an easy thing. Even with countries like Hungary, where we agree on 9 out of 10 points, but it's not easy. These things take work. These take time, and that's relationships. And it's always very important. I know there are representatives from countries here that have sat with me in my office many times and trying to figure out a variety of different solutions to the different problems that come about. Adam Lovinger is here. We have many of our fellows. They flew in from 4 different countries or 5 different countries that flew in for this conference, and it takes a lot of work, and that's what we're here for. That's what the Gold Institute is all about. It's taking the time to engage one-on-one to be able to provide solutions and a path forward, so that way we can build these relationships and make and continue. You know, people always talk to me about, in particular in the Middle East, that we need peace. We need peace. I'm looking for stability. If we can work towards stability, towards a stabilizing relationship, then peace will come thereafter. So with that, from my perspective, I want to bring General Flynn, and I know that you have some very important thoughts as well. But I do personally want to thank everybody for participating, and in particular thank General Flynn for his leadership. He and I and 2 others founded this organization 6 years ago, and after making sure that we saw a change in leadership here in the United States, it formally came on 2 months ago as the chairman of the organization, and it's important, and thank you for your leadership.
So, maybe some of you didn't know me, but now maybe some of you know me a little bit. And in the middle of being just incredibly persecuted by my own government, by elements of my own government, I stood with Ellie Gold, I don't know, maybe it was 7 years ago. It was right in the middle of all that, right? And I looked around, and I have fought on many battlefields, killed people, saved people, tried to do, my part to be a good soldier, to be a good citizen around the world for many places, many people, many countries, many nations. And, only to return to my own country and find something that was so incredibly subversive, right? But I knew, because I'm a student of history, right? And Ambassador, you mentioned it was like we were 1,100 years old, or I talked about Egypt, where I stood in a place that was over 4,000 years old. And I've been around the world and seen different things and experienced so much in my life. And I knew that if there's something that I experienced in my life about looking back, is that to learn from what has happened in the past. So when we move forward, we can move forward in a much different way, because the changes in the world are happening so rapidly now. I said last night to a friend of mine that in post-World War II, in 1950 was the first time that they decided to count how many people actually lived in the United States of America. It's our first census that we took to actually count the number of people in our country, 1950. And at that time, we had around 150 million people in the United States of America. When we did it again, when we counted again, which was in 2010, we almost doubled. So in the previous 200 years of existence, where we came to 150 million, we almost doubled in a period of about 70 years, right? I mean, just an incredible amount of people, right? And when I look at just two nations on the planet, China and India, they represent a third of the population of the planet. It is incredibly complex. It is incredibly, there's all kinds of conflicts. I am a huge, huge fan, and I don't know, the foreign minister is still here, and I know very, very diplomatic, and rightly so, response, about Kurdistan, and should Kurdistan be its own nation state? It's a country with a great population, it's got the resources, it has a government, and all the structures of what could be. I mean, in our lifetime, ask Czechoslovakia, ask Yugoslavia. Okay, so I'm a fan of looking at the world and saying that why shouldn't something be done, right? In a positive way. In a positive way. It's not just about Kurdistan, but it's about how we now I am speaking as an American. How does America want to see itself? In 1938, there was a study. In 1938, there was a study by a great historian, and he studied 7 civilizations in the history of the world, right? Going back to Mesopotamian Empire, certainly the Athenian Empire, Roman Empire, the British Empire. And he studied all these different, Ottoman Empire, studied all these different empires and looked at the rise and fall, the indicators of when those empires collapsed, right? And what caused them to collapse. The average amount of time for those empires was 250 years. 250 years. We are right now at our 249th and 6-month mark. Okay? And over my dead body will this country collapse. Okay? That's why I said at the very beginning of these remarks, if you get a little taste of me, I'm very relentless about America, because I know what I've seen across the world and around the world. I've had some great conversations and some great insights today. I mean, wonderful, wonderful, powerful insights. And this is a give and take. This isn't give and take. I've been married for a long time, right? I mean, it's a give and take, right? It's like a relationship, a long-term relationship. It's like Donald Trump, right? President Trump. I don't have to agree with everything. I don't agree with everything he says, right? I mean, we are in a place now where we should argue, sort of in the room, right? Inside the room, we argue and we debate and we have these very brutally honest conversations. Right? And if you're a leader, like as I look at and I've studied our founders. It's one of the things that's I get up in the morning and I don't go practice my golf game. I read things like executive orders or I read history books, right? So I've studied our founding fathers of this country, of the United States of America. I've read the Federalist Papers that we have. Read our Constitution. I've read the Bible. I've read the Quran. I've read all these different things because that's what fascinates me. But what it has done for me, it has sort of solidified in my mind. Solidified in my mind is what is great. What is good about this country, about the United States of America. Because as ugly as the warts are that we are facing right now, and I could see them. I mean, I was at the fulcrum of it. This week, my name is all over the media again. It's been all over the media for years. I've been called an anti-Semite. I've been called a Jew lover. I've been called, racist. I've been called every single a traitor, every single name in the book. But it's like my mother taught me. My mother taught me, sticks and stones will break your bones, but names will never hurt you. Okay? And that's a very, very important thing to remember. It's a very important piece of counsel because we have to stand up for what we believe in. We have to stand up for what we believe in. When we're placed into these diplomatic positions, and we're placed into these governmental roles, yes, if you're not the prime minister or the president or the king or the whatever, you've got to follow whatever it is that got them there. Right? If it's a really democratically elected leader. Because a lot of people go, like I said earlier today, for those that were listening, if you won by 98% just because you go the 2%, right? It's a joke. Right? It's a joke. When somebody says, they won by 98% in this country, no way. That's not a democratic system. That's where a democratic system, and ours is a constitutional republic. Okay, we're not a democratic republic. We're a constitutional republic based on a document that has stood the test of time, will stand the test of time. And when I think about our founders, what our founders did was they gave us, in my DNA, in the very skin in the blood that flows through my veins, they gave us two things. And I learned this as a kid, as a young child, and I learned this as a soldier and as a leader. They gave us two things. They gave us courage and they gave us accountability. Because they themselves, standing up at that time to the greatest navy, the greatest army in the history of the world, an empire, right, that was at the top of the heap. They stood up and they said, we're not going to take it. And you know what it was all about? It was actually about religious liberty. It was actually about religious liberty, which is an interesting sidebar. The second thing that they showed us and they gave us was the idea of accountability. Accountability. Because every single one of them, and I've actually read some of their diaries and some of their letters to their wives back home when they were in different places and they were debating each other. It's fascinating. Or to their sons and daughters. And they would write letters home because at that time that's how they did it because they didn't have iPhones. And they would talk about how they held themselves to such a high level of accountability that they were willing and they knew that were they caught doing the things that they did, they would be hung or shot, right? Or mercilessly tortured. They were willing to give their very lives and everything, like we say, their treasure, everything, right? To something that was so much bigger than them. Last thing that I'll finish on is our First Amendment. Our very First Amendment. It has 5 parts, okay, in our Bill of Rights. This is really important because this is where it began. 1500s, 1600s, the Crusades, fighting against, at that time, the emergence of a gigantic empire. Right? The longest lasting empire in the history of the world is the Ottoman Empire. Almost 1,400 years. So, we had a guy in 1630 standing on the docks of England. His name is Winthrop. Became the first mayor of Boston, for anybody that's ever been up to Boston, Massachusetts. This is well before the United States became anything. And he stood he stood on that dock and he talked to his congregation. They were getting ready to get on these ships because they were being persecuted. They were told, if you want to go to the colonies, go to the colonies. Get the heck out of here. You're not going to be able to do what you want to do. You're practicing, a religion that's, anathema to the king, right? So he gave one of the greatest speeches, and I encourage you to look it up. Winthrop is his name, and he gave this sermon in 1630. And during that sermon, he talked about, we are in search of a city on a hill. He talked about that. He actually stated it, city on a hill, right? Like a beacon of hope, as I think Adam talked about and others talked about, a beacon of hope. He also coined the term, we are in search of a New England. I'm from New England. I'm from Rhode Island. But he used that term, we are in search of a New England. Okay? That's 1630. Fast forward another, 100, I'm not a math major, so another 150 years or whatever, to now where we have these founders who are gathering. And they didn't get together in a one-day conference or a 3-day weekend. They talked about this for a couple of decades. Okay? It's fascinating. And then when it came to the time where we then were going to go to war, we were going to sacrifice everything, right? They didn't know what the outcome was going to be. But what they taught us was they taught us those two things, courage and accountability. And that's my message to you. Be accountable for who you are and what you do, wherever it is. And I know right now, we're live streaming right now. I think we're just over 200,000 right now. So, I know what I'm trying to achieve personally. And don't think for a second that you got to be inside the government to have a difference or to make a difference. You don't, believe me. Believe me. All this stuff that's going on right now is, it's happening for a variety of reasons, okay? Because there are many people that are willing to stand up and demonstrate a level of courage and commitment, right? And sort of stick to it in this, right? The discipline to do the right thing. Again, inside government, the diplomacy aspects of what you have to do to follow a king, a prime minister, a president, or whatever, I understand all that. But my thing as a military leader, the former military leader, I would cherish the young officer or the young sergeant who in a room when we were about to make a decision that was going to result in the life or death of men and women on the battlefield, I would cherish somebody who would say, damn, sir, that's a stupid decision. All right, that's a dumb decision. Because I would say, hey, I'm about to make this decision. Are we all on board? Because it's going to be tough. And when some young person, because nobody around the people that you choose to have around you, don't choose them in your likeness. Choose them in a way that you know that they're going to help you, because it's not about you. It's about the direction. From my perspective, it's about the direction of the United States of America, and that we are able to get at least another 250 years out of this experiment. Okay? And if we're able to do that, and I do honestly believe that we can do that, it will come with great sacrifice. Great sacrifice. We're not going to solve, global warming or climate change or all the conflicts around the world. We're not. But what we can do is we can have the courage, and we can learn. You can learn to be, courageous. Fear is something that we all live with on a daily basis. I know it. I have felt it. But when we can get to a place where we can control it a little bit, and that's the fear to say something, to worry about, am I going to say something? Am I going to upset somebody? Upset somebody, right? Because you know what you believe. You know what you feel in your heart. And to me, that's a part of the purpose of what we're doing, and why. Because we really, and Ellie was great to point out Melissa. There's other members of our team here too, but we put this thing together in a very short fashion, and it achieved essentially what I wanted it to achieve, which is to just basically bring some people together, I had people like Tulsi and Marco lined up. But obviously you see what's going on in the White House, right? I love it. see him in here now, but I was talking last night about chaos and complexity, right? I mean, that's like, you know, I don't know whether that's my DNA, but I'm designed for that. I just want to say, to finish, for all the ambassadors and the foreign ministers, other ministers that are here, the people that came here, that I know your time is extremely valuable. And I appreciate it. I know our team appreciates it. Your time, your remarks, your presence matters more than anything else. So thank you so much for that. The next step, okay, and I'll just, the next step is, this is sort of an umbrella, this conference here. We've kind of covered a whole bunch of things. You get 5 minutes to talk about 1,100 years, right? I mean, but this is designed this way, okay, because the way my mind works. So this is sort of an umbrella conversation, because one of the things that I will do is I will drive a conversation in this town, right? And we can do this now in a much different way, because I'm not fighting against the censorship. I'm not fighting against, even though I've still been here, but it would just been uglier that I had the police out the door waiting for me, right? I mean, that's what we were facing in this country. And I tell people, I remind people, had Donald J. Trump not been elected President of the United States, they were going to put him in jail on the 26th of November last year, okay? That judge, right, for the foolishness and the craziness that these people were attacking this man. Never mind trying to put a bullet through his head, right? So, we're ugly, okay? The baby is ugly here in this country, and that's okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to work our way through this as a democracy, as a citizenry, as people who are responsible for the future of our country. These people in Capitol Hill, people down at the White House, they are temporary. What is permanent is the American people, and what I have described, it's in our blood. Okay? And that's all Americans, right? Not just white Americans or black Americans. I don't care if you're purple with pink polka dots. If you believe in this country and you believe in what it stands for, then I know that we'll get another 250 years out of this. So we will follow up with all of you, and this is all, we have all the video. If people want it, we'll get it on websites, and we have photos. But I'm going to continue this, and I'm going to continue on certain issues that some of those were raised today. And we definitely appreciate your feedback. So anyway, be safe. God bless you all, and thank you so much for attending.
We know exactly. We will stay in touch. I will send my details, and I'm at your disposal. Wish you well. Thank you.
What are we on?
One last time, if anybody is missing the key to your vehicle, I have it up here. It says kryptonite on it.
If it's BMW, I would take it.
If you don't come and get this.